Hi, welcome back to the Be the Cake podcast with me, your host, Liz Campbell. And today we are talking about the most infamous of spiritual quote unquote subjects, channeling. If you've actually read my latest Substack on reclaiming channeling from the old pyramid structures, then you've already had a taste of what today is all about. And essentially, I'm here now to kind of dive a bit deeper on it. I will actually just add in at this point, if you're not already following me on Substack or subscribed or however you want to describe the signing up so you get the newsletters and things and can see what I'm doing on there, please do, because I do actually put out a lot of stuff in written format as well as video. And if you're interested in what I have to say and the subjects that I'm covering, then it's going to be really fucking useful for you. Maybe to catalyze something, maybe to give you something to think about, maybe something that can potentially inspire you in your own journey. You know, however it wants to touch you, for want of a better way of putting it. You know, I'm putting out what wants to come through me. If you are ready to receive it, then Substack is one of the places where you can find me and do that. So come on over if you're not already over there. The thing about channeling is that people always think of it as being a case of channeling external beings. It's very hierarchical with the way that the majority of people think of channeling. So they're looking at sort of channeling ETs, channeling ascended masters, channeling deities, channeling all these various different spiritual beings, and very often giving power away in the process, which is, you know, all well and good as a learning experience. But from the point of view of practicality, if you're actually wanting to come into a deeper connection with yourself, if you're wanting to actually claim your sovereignty, it's not particularly useful, as you can probably tell. And one of the things that I have experienced for myself going through the journey of being a channel, and it really has been a journey from sort of when I first started to now, is actually understanding that the most useful thing that I was able to do along my journey was actually come into the realization that in actual fact, I didn't need to be channeling all of these external beings. In actual fact, what was required was for me to actually start connecting with my own higher consciousness and bringing that through and building the connection with that. And there's a number of things around this that I could say, and we'll get into that as well. But the point of the matter being that whilst we in humanity are in this position of putting other beings on pedestals and then allowing them access to us, we are continuously putting ourselves in the position of being less than, of being unworthy on some level, even though people don't want to acknowledge this when they're looking at this whole subject matter. And I think the interesting thing when you really dig into this is that if you look at the way that the spiritual community has organised itself, it's very much based on what I'm going to call old religious control drama templates. And very often what you'll find is people will become evangelical or whatever, and where they've been very used to this very hierarchical kind of construct that they've been operating within, where they're at the bottom effectively of a pyramid with all of these, I don't know, priests or vicars or, you know, youth pastors or whoever, you know, all of these people in this like hierarchical structure and deities and this, that and the other on top of them. And they're very much in this position of kind of believing that they're unworthy, they're sinners, this, that and the other. And that these people who are perceived to be above them, no better than them, are more worthy than them, and so on and so forth. And actually, if you look at it, if you really here's where to put the cat amongst the pigeons. If you really look at the way that this stuff works, it's very much what I'm going to call a structure that reinforces narcissism. Because in actual fact, if you look at clinically diagnosed narcissists, they are constantly creating a social pecking order when they're in any kind of social situation and constantly trying to be at the top of it in order to prove that they're worthy because of deep shame issues and so on and so forth that they're not addressing, like all of this unaddressed shadow. And religion basically perpetuates and feeds on these structures in terms of the way that it's organised. And then you see this in the spiritual community kind of replicating itself because people have come from these structures. They don't know any different. They decide to slough off the chains of religious control drama, but then they go and recreate a carbon copy of it and label it spiritual, which isn't particularly fucking useful, as you can tell. And if you haven't worked that one out yet, then maybe I'm the person to deliver the message to you that, this could very well be what you're doing. All of the entire reason why we have all these issues with guru culture and all the rest of it is because they are based on hierarchies. And all of these hierarchies naturally encourage competition over collaboration. They encourage this sort of what you call the social pecking order, where people are encouraged to basically see their authority as outside of themselves rather than actually being externally eschewed in favour of actual owning inner authority. And inner authority doesn't necessarily shout. It's quiet, it's presence, it's equality, it's embodied equality, where you see you genuinely see other people as being the same as you, even if they're different, essentially. It's like, so when we look at hierarchical structures, and this is really not a tangent I was expecting to go off on with this, but here we go. It's coming through the way it wants to come through, and I very much kind of opened the floodgates for this when I started recording. Okay, so hierarchy is the reason why we have racism, we have sexism, we have all forms of bigotry because of hierarchy, which is a false construct. Okay, it's a false construct. It serves no one. It's responsible for late stage capitalism, absolute fucking shit show that it creates in terms of the way that people are treated and exploited, the way that the earth is, just so much stuff. And if you want to go into my personal philosophies on this, I am very much, when I look at things, and I look at the way that we live, I am very much a person who honestly believes that the biggest issues that we have on this planet are the extremes that people camp themselves into, which are usually based on insecurities, unresolved wounding, and so on and so forth. And in actual fact, we come back to this Buddhist idea of the middle way, where, we can bring the material and the spiritual together. We can bring, the idea of capitalism. Because I like the idea of a free market, but it needs to be done within a framework of respect for other human beings, the planet, and so on and so forth. And we come back to, again, this middle way idea, which isn't just an idea, it's something that we can actually embody, of socio-economic capitalism, or not socio-economic, socio-environmental capitalism, whereby we give ourselves the freedom to have expansion, but we do it within a framework that doesn't create ultimate destruction. Because in actual fact, late stage capitalism creates destruction as its byproduct. And when you don't have the structures in place that have been put there to protect what needs protecting, for example, the environment, for example, human rights, and so on and so forth, then you end up with this absolute fucking I don't how to do it. It's like a forest fire in terms of destroying everything. And then there might be some rebirth afterwards, but who even knows how that's going to happen? Okay, so we started off on channeling, and we somehow ended up on late stage capitalism, and actually comparing religion, like religious control dramas, and the wanton destruction of the environment and exploitation of people, including trafficking, including all of these other very thorny subjects. Basically, it's kind of interesting to see actually how much it's all connected in some way or other. And I am always saying everything's connected, but yeah, oh boy, when I opened the floodgates for this one, I didn't realise that I was going to end up going off on this tangent. Anyhow, I'm going to pull myself back to the subject of channeling again, because I think it's important for me not to get too completely off on that tangent for right now. We come back to this thing, your higher consciousness, when it is properly connected with, has the answers for you, okay? And will also always be able to guide you to the right people, places, situations to actually bring about your experience of your highest timeline and your highest good, and the ways in which you can actually be that for others as well. So we come to this place of everyone gets to shine as who they are without trampling on anyone else. So we create a win-win situation. Again, bringing it back full circle. In order for humanity to actually evolve in the way that it needs to, we need to stop being so fucking scared of connecting genuinely with our own intuition and with our higher guidance, and taking the necessary steps along the way to help that evolution without giving our power away to gurus in the process, but in actual fact working with people who have the habit of leading us back to ourselves and the inner truth that wants to come through, which is all also connected to our DNA working properly, not having obstructions in the basically obstructing the flow of energy that can come through from our higher chakras, from our higher selves, from those higher realms, and actually people that can lead us into understanding how to master and manage our energy, connect with our intuition, bring through what needs to be brought through, and understand how to create in a way that doesn't harm others. Okay. So yeah, here we go. Big subject matter. So channeling in this instance is a microcosm for fucking everything else, oddly enough. And it's funny because you can really, if you open the floodgates for yourself, you can do this with any fucking subject. You can start to see the connections and bring them through in a coherent manner, and understand that the way you do one thing is the way that you do all things. And so, if you were to choose to drill down into any subject in your life, any individual subject, you will start to see when the blinkers are off exactly how this connects to that, connects to that, connects to that, and how where something's not working in one area of your life can be completely connected to some fully different on the surface area of your life where you're doing something that's actually having a knock-on effect. So bringing this back, pulling it neatly back into the subject of channeling for now. I mean, I swear to God, I should rename this Life, the Universe and Everything. Basically, we don't need to channel something outside of ourselves to be deeply connected. What we do need to do, and it's what I'm going to be going into further with you guys today, is we need to be understanding how to connect with that internal guidance properly. And we are going to be doing some exercises to help you do that, so that you can see what your next steps are without having to throw it out to the peanut gallery for their opinions. Okay. So, Okay, so when it comes to the nitty gritty of actually what happens when you channel, essentially your brainwave state has a lot to do with it, alongside your belief systems and the hidden structures that you already have in place, which are either going to be allowing for the energy and the information to flow through or not. And essentially what I will be doing with you guys today in a little bit, but not quite yet, is actually taking you through an exercise to help you tap into this state of being. What I will say is that if you've got structural resistance in place to actually being able to do it, that's going to cause you some issues. In which case, here's a shameless plug for my business. I have plenty of stuff that I sell that can help you deal with all of that, okay, as well as my group program, the Magic Zone, where I actually go through things with people and you get access to all my digital products, or depending on what level you join at. So, there's stuff that can help you to deal with all of that. What we're going to do today is quite a basic sort of channeling exercise to help get you started on not connecting with beings outside of yourself, but actually connecting with your own higher guidance. And I will be taking you through how you can actually connect in with that higher guidance to receive the guidance that you need in what your next steps are, and how to actually understand whether a person or some kind of learning situation or whatever is the right one for you. Because ultimately, with everything in life, there's a gift in every shit sandwich. But I speak as the person who has been through my fair share of shit sandwiches on my own journey. And if I had had the understanding that I do now on how to discern what's going to be a blessing and what's going to be a lesson, and how to actually understand where my intuition was properly trying to guide me in terms of not only just properly trying to guide me, but actually like the whole thing around trusting your intuition. So, this is all connected. I probably would have had a bit of an easier path. At the same time, I will say my work would not have developed to the level that it has if I hadn't had the less savoury experiences that I've had along the way. So, you do come to a place, I will say, it doesn't matter where you are on your journey right now, any shit that you go through, just bear in mind the fact that there will come a point where you'll be grateful for what you gain from the experience, even if it takes you a while to get to that point. Okay, just as something in there to kind of let you know that it doesn't really matter what happens. Ultimately, you will, if you keep going, always come out on top, so to speak. Sometimes we put ourselves through some really interesting situations in order to expand and evolve and push through something that's been there possibly as a generational thing for lifetimes and generations in our family, and so on and so forth. So yeah, it's kind of important to remember that stuff, because we can get, like, I know certainly on the what I'm going to call the spiritual journey, like there are a number of initiations we put ourselves through. We're not being put through by anything outside of ourselves. We are putting ourselves through these initiations, and we do it as a way of basically testing our mettle on whether we are ready for the higher information. There's so much I could talk about regarding this, but I'm going to try and keep it simple for today. Essentially, you could say it's a bit like the mystery school path. When you're doing any kind of spiritual work, it's important to understand the fact that in order to really connect with what gets called the higher mysteries, you will test yourself out to see if you're ready for that information. And sometimes it takes a while. Okay. Sometimes it takes a while, and this is all kind of designed as a way of, we design it for ourselves to prove to ourselves that we are ready to handle the power that we actually have, and to handle the wisdom and not misuse it, if this makes sense. Okay, so just bearing that one in mind as well. The basic gist of what happens when you're channeling is that essentially, in order to channel effectively, you are stepping into a theta brainwave state. And that basically what happens when you step into your theta brainwave state and you have the right stuff in place. As I mentioned in the Substack article, it's quite useful to work with specific crystals that are designed to keep you in a state of clarity and protection when you are channeling, even if it's your own higher consciousness, because it kind of keeps you on message, as it were. It's like having, I don't know how to describe this better than the picture that just came to mind was when you go bowling for the first time and you're maybe a small child and you get them to put up the buffers in the lanes on either side of or in the gullies on either side of the bowling lane. It's a similar kind of idea where basically when you are wearing or holding shatterkite or blue kyanite as two examples that are really good, or you can work with, the other one that you can work with is lapis lazuli, is also really powerful for this. What happens is that it keeps you on message with your own stream of consciousness rather than kind of crossing streams with anything that might be trying to come in and attach. Okay. And this is important for all sorts of reasons. When people channel unguarded and they just allow whatever to come in and use them as a vessel without any kind of level of discernment, they can end up with all sorts of like down the line type of problems. Okay, so, and it is, when it comes to protection, it is as simple as making sure that you start off by grounding, clearing your energy, setting up intention and asking for protection. But you can sort of circumnavigate this a little bit by making sure that your energy is clear and aligned, and actually working with the crystal, because when you work with a crystal such as blue kyanite, which is very high vibrational in nature and will automatically, it won't allow any negative influence in it. Basically, that's something that helps to anchor you so that you can focus on the task at hand rather than having to think about 5 million other things as well, which is going to put you, if you're focusing on 5 million other things at the same time, the way that the human brain works most of the time is you start to go into a more of a stressed beta brainwave state, which is actually going to block you from being able to channel effectively anyway. Okay, so theta, or kind of what I'm going to refer to as a low alpha brainwave, so sort of alpha brain waves are between the theta frequencies go from about 4.55 hertz up to about 6 or 7. I can never actually remember, to be honest with you, because I, generally speaking, if I'm working with binaurals, I always go into the low end of theta for me personally. So the upper echelons I don't really pay so much attention to. Alpha is between that and the beta brainwave state. Beta is the state that you're in most of the time when you're actively doing stuff during the day, when you're focusing on tasks, when you're concentrating, and the higher you go up the beta brainwave state, the more stressed you tend to be. So you're like actively dealing with stress. Okay. Essentially, in order to channel effectively, you need to be relaxed. You need to be grounded. Your nervous system needs to be in a nicely regulated state. So these are just like the sort of things you need to have in place before you're going to be able to channel effectively. If you're in survival mode, your nervous system is completely unregulated and you have loads of shit floating around in your energy field, channeling is going to be hard for you from the point of view of it's a bit like when you're trying to tune into a radio station and you're going through a tunnel and there's a shit ton of static and, maybe speakers aren't working properly, as an analogy to all of that. Okay, so the prerequisites for channeling effectively: regulated nervous system, relaxation, properly grounded, cleared energy. So basic, having an energetic hygiene routine's really fucking useful to anyone doing any kind of spiritual work, even if you're not moving energy around more than just making sure that your field is relatively clear. Okay, and I say relatively clear because there are some energetic hygiene practices out there that are what I'm going to call very surface level, and there are some that go into things more deeply. So, that's a subject. That's a whole nother subject for another time in terms of actually kind of really looking at this from the point of view of understanding things. And effectively, you will probably find when it comes to channeling your own higher consciousness that it's a good idea to practice by yourself in an environment where you feel safe, where you don't have an audience, before you actually ever attempt to bring it to the outer world, as it were. And I'm not saying any of this suggesting that you should bring it to the outer world. This is primarily, first and foremost, for your own information, for your own edification, not because you're basically going to go and, start offering readings to other people or whatever else you might feel called to do. This is something else I would just want to quickly address here. There's a lot of people who, as soon as they start opening up spiritually, suddenly feel like it must be their purpose to go and help other people sort themselves out, and they want to become a healer and this, that and the other. But effectively, the reason why you have all of these gifts and abilities is to use for yourself first and foremost. The problem that we have is that a lot of the times people who are people who are drawn towards the healing arts, so to speak, as well as giving readings, are quite often coming from a place of a traumatic background, maybe having been led to believe that their worth was entirely tied up in serving other people, and so on and so forth. If you go into doing this work from that space, you are literally rooted in scarcity and unworthiness, and it causes more problems than it solves long term. So it's important to understand this stuff before you actually even start to look at trying to connect in. Where are you personally? Are you looking to develop this stuff so that you can actually utilize it for yourself first and foremost before you would even consider going out and bringing it to a wider audience? Or are you going to try and use it to validate yourself, which is something that does happen because you grew up thinking that you weren't worthy unless you were doing stuff for other people? Okay, really, really, really important to really tune into this. What is your deeper reason why you're doing anything in life? Are you doing things in life because you genuinely want to help people, but you are coming from a position of being stable, of being grounded, of self-love and all of these things? Or are you looking to save other people in order to distract yourself from the fact that you don't feel good enough? It's a big thing. It's a big thing. And, no shade if you do have self-worth issues and stuff going on in the background. That's just, if you identify that that's what's going on, that's something for you to actually work on and resolve by loving yourself more, by going into the roots of things, by working with someone who can hold space for you, to actually be able to dig into these things and feel safe and actually kind of feel loved and supported and feel like you're allowing yourself to receive what you need in order to move forwards and in order to come to a place of actually owning your wholeness rather than feeling disconnected from it and fractured, and this is I'd say the side effect of all childhood trauma is this sense of being fractured, of having parts of you that are buried and being ignored that you're not acknowledging. Okay, so we come back to this whole thing of self-love. Everything's connected. Yes, having said all of this, what we're going to do next is we are actually going to go through a connection exercise. So I hope you're looking forwards to that. Okay, so what I would like you to do now is close your eyes and make sure that you are sitting up straight with your feet on the floor and your legs uncrossed. Okay, preferably with bare feet. You don't have to, but it's a good idea. And you're going to take some nice big deep breaths. Just centering yourself, breathing in into your belly, and then breathing out through your mouth, but breathing in through your nose. Placing a hand on your heart. Be either left or right hand, whichever one you choose. And I want you to visualize a golden column of light coming down from high up above you, and it's coming right the way down through your crown, through your energy field, through your entire body. As you see it coming down and entering your energy field, you're going to feel a tingling sensation as it actually this energy comes into your energy field. What you're doing is you're actually pulling this energy through, and you're going to send it right the way down through in this column, right the way down into the heart of the earth to anchor you there. So it's creating a cosmic anchor in the earth. And as it's doing this and as it's streaming through, it is clearing through any static that you have going on. And as you're visualizing this, what I'm doing now from my end to assist you is I am activating the energy, frequency and vibration of blue kyanite all around the edges of your aura, so it forms like a protective shield around you. Anything that tries to get in, basically, it won't let through anything that's low vibrational frequency, that's low intention, anything like that. Blue kyanite is fantastic for this, and you can work with its energy, frequency and vibration rather than having to actually have a physical piece with you. If you have a physical piece with you, do by all means have it with you, like hold it in your hand or put it in your lap, or even have it on a necklace, or however feels right for you and is appropriate and convenient for you at this time. That's activated now, and I want you to focus your attention now on your heart chakra, where your hand is, and send your energy and awareness into your heart chakra. And what we're going to do here is we're going to activate the energy, frequency and vibration of rose quartz. Okay. And doing this helps you, if you've got a heart wall or anything else going on, it's going to help to start to dissolve that, and it also brings you into a space of being open and receptive. Your heart is your God spark area, okay? This is your kind of midpoint in your bodily chakras where you connect to the higher realms as well as the lower realms, as it were. So it's like it's a central point. Okay. And now what I want you to do is see yourself standing in the middle of your heart chakra, surrounded by this rose quartz energy, which feels so lovely and warm and inviting and soft and loving. And just allow yourself to bask in that. And you're going to call forth your own higher self from this space to come down into your heart and meet you there. And you're going to ask them as you are seeing yourself, if you have aphantasia like me, you don't need to see them, you just need to have the intention and feel the feelings, okay? You don't have to see it in order to be creating this connection. I want you to literally, you're setting the intention that you've set up so that your higher self can meet you in your heart space. You're going to ask your higher self what advice he or she has for you right now, and see what wants to come through. You can ask the question, what's the next step I need to take on my journey of evolution and self-awareness? Or you can ask them something else. And just see just making sure you're breathing. Just allow yourself to take on board whatever's coming from them. And whenever you're ready, just going to bring yourself back to this present moment fully in your body. Expanding out from your heart to fill the whole of your body again. And slowly opening your eyes. And you might want to write down what came through. I'd love to hear from you in the comments here on YouTube, if you're watching this on YouTube, should I say listening to this on YouTube, because obviously there's no video as such involved, or Substack comments, or even Spotify. I don't know if you can leave comments on Spotify, but if you can, I'm not sure. I'd literally love to hear from you if you want to share what you experienced from this. And I just want to leave you now with the invitation, if you want to start diving into this work more, you can check out the link to my website, which is dynamicintention.podia.com. There's different ways to work with me on there if you want to look at maybe kind of stepping into having some form of mentorship in the form of, maybe a one-off session, or potentially joining the group program that I run, which is an ongoing thing, or looking at digital products if you've got any kind of specific things that you want to work with. And what I will say is, obviously you will know if this is right for you, and if you're unsure, just go through the exercise we've just gone through again and ask your higher self if working with me is something that's fully aligned for you and your highest and best good. And if you get a yes, then you know what to do. I'm sending you so much love. I hope that you found this useful. And yeah, remember, like I say, channeling isn't about connecting with all these external beings. This is about channeling effectively for your highest and best good, is about building a relationship with your own higher consciousness first and foremost, and getting to a point where you can just call this information through and feel trusting of it and feel kind of solid and secure in it at any point. Okay, that's really the biggest gift of channeling, in my opinion. And I've been there and done that when it comes to this stuff, in terms of channeling other beings and all the rest of it. And this is what I do for myself now, is this. And when it comes to connecting with external, inverted commas, beings, there are certain sort of protocols and guidelines for that too, but that's something I go into in my paid workshops and so on. So anyhow, I'm sending you so much love. All of the relevant links are to be found somewhere around this, and I look forward to speaking to you in the next one. Who knows what we're going to be covering next time? I have literally no idea.